According to historical data, when Cortez landed in Central America around 1520 CE, the Mayan priests have already expected his arrival. They knew from their advanced calendar systems that their civilization in this reality has reached its final hours just around the timing of the Spanish invasion. Legend has it that on the eve of that fateful attack by Cortez on the Maya and Aztec population, the Mayan high priest visited him, handing him a collection of sacred knowledge of the classical Maya period. This collection has been locked away in the Vatican ever since, translated into Spanish, what is now called the Dresden Codex. It's one of the best collections of remaining sacred wisdom of the Maya that we could access today. So when his people asked the Mayan high priest, "What should we do? Fight or die with honor, or just give up?" The priest answered, "No need. They're like children. Let them play. They don't yet know what awaits them down the road. So let them have a go of it this time around." The high priest knew very well their civilization reached its highest peak. The earthly journey was at a crossroad. He was well aware that the incoming newer groups, such as the Spaniards, represent a group of humans with a beginner level of consciousness, and now they need the playing field to advance their wisdom. By allowing them to play out their children's games, he wisely decided not to oppose Cortez, and the Spanish army massacred the highest number of Maya people that fateful night. The ancient Maya of the classical period believed that time is cyclical and their time here has reached the peak of the highest civilization for this cycle. They were literally ready to walk away from this reality. This was tremendous. What incredible wisdom and knowledge must have been collected by these humans during their last era. They knew their fate and acted accordingly. If the most accurate calendar system today is the Mayan cyclical calendar, then the date of that year, 3113 BC, or the beginning of the fifth world, is from when we may count the beginning of a new devolutionary cycle of human history. Today, just like during the Maya of the classical era, we are at a crossroads of cycles. Or we can say that we find ourselves at the end of a 5,125-year-long great world age cycle and the beginning of the sixth world. Not the end of the world, only the end of the fifth world. But what's this thing called devolution? Well, its literal meaning, of course, is the opposite of evolution. Contrary to modern assumptions, many may have believed that we are evolving. The cold hard truth is that humanity is currently on a devolutionary cycle. We are devolving. The great world cycles take approximately 5,000 earthly years, but we must be careful about taking the numbers of linear years at face value. The date of 2012 AD was arrived at as the next cycle point in these cosmic cycles, but it may well be inaccurate. As much as we did and still are experiencing significant cosmic awakenings or downloads, in the most recent years there is very little visible proof that 2012 or any of these current years we are in now will be cycle changers. One thing is for sure, linear time seems to be speeding up. It has been for some time, and like a Fibonacci spiral, personal and global events appear to be happening at faster intervals and shorter durations, compacting past, present, and future events into mini repeat events, leading us closer and closer to 0 point. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's go back to my original question. Are we going out like the classical Mayans did, who slowly disappeared between the years 200 BC and 800 CE? Are we giving room to a species of humans who are ready and seemingly willing to experience more extreme austerities during the remains of this harsh devolutionary cycle? Are these new humans willing to enter the new age of transhumanism? Vedic cosmology tells us that these devolutionary cycles are characteristic of the Age of Iron, also called Kali Yugas. We have been in the last destructive Kali Yuga cycle for nearly 2,500 years so far. In contrast to a constructive or more creative cycle such as the Golden Age or Silver Age, a devolutionary cycle expressed during the Iron Age is characterized by extreme forms of aggression, survival of the fittest, a dog-eat-dog kind of world, as oppression, strife, abuse, fraud, multiple forms of slavery, ritual murder, and a complete lack of ethical and moral conduct displays itself. In short, a complete absence of respect for culture, logic, reason, or human life, for example, or traditional human values are prevalent in this vile age. Glorious human achievements, patriotism, family values, tribal or national values, whatever creative genius built during the long, prosperous times of the Golden Age, these are no longer recognized, valued, and are tossed out like yesterday's trash. During a devolutionary cycle, the shadow characteristics of human nature play center stage as dark and dreary dramas play out on this third dimensional reality made possible by our beloved Mother Earth. In a devolutionary cycle, duality reaches peak levels. Once reached a critical mass, the cycle gets replaced by the next cosmic cycle, gradually moving away, ascending upwards into a life of higher ethics and moral integrity. We are on that slow, painful journey now, as the 21st century in linear time slowly moves us out of the swamps of the Iron Age. Let us stop here for a minute. Some of you may think and ask, but it still looks a lot like we're in Kali Yuga or the Age of Iron. After all, the powers of the hidden hand are still in place, viciously running amok, feverishly trying to kill all organic life on this planet. Well, it sure seems like the shadowy elements of our human nature have not completed their course. The destructive side of humanity's game has not been fully played out yet. It's visibly obvious that the Age of Kali Yuga is still on its last legs, and many of us feel that it may get worse before it gets better. Humanity must reach maximum honesty levels and accept the truth about both its extreme dark and extreme light aspects of its nature, and understand how complex we human beings really are. Alternatively, if we are progressing into the next, the Bronze Age, then to me, this new age still appears quite sinister and quite deceptive in a slightly different way than the one we just left behind. At first glance, it seems as if we are headed for unity consciousness, which is a grand solution. In reality, though, the current rulers are hell-bent on creating a new form of society in which unity, to them, means ruling over a manageable-sized herd sheep, and of course, controlled by them, the masters. Or, like a colony of ants, the unity of humans will be forced to be working non-stop for their queen. It appears this coming age is already fooling the masses. I used to think that we are getting real close to the Golden Age, even within my lifetime. I don't feel that way anymore. Instead, it looks more like we are not even near the beginning of the Bronze Age. Or maybe we are. You tell me. We're inching back up on the ladder, to be sure, into a more humane earthly existence. But the Bronze Age may arrive a lot later, perhaps in 100 years. Maybe not, maybe less. but certainly not in my lifetime. One of the greatest interpretations of the Dresden Codex was done by Carl Johann Kalaman in his work The Mayan Calendar and the Transformation of Consciousness. According to his careful decoding of the Maya timekeeping, creation as such has been completed on our planet as of October 2011. What does this mean? What creation is finished? It sounds absurd, right? Not really. Everything in nature and in the universe, on a macro and micro levels, is perpetually being born, growing, creating, building, expanding, then disintegrating or dying. It is a cycle of birth and destruction, life and death, growth and collapse, repeating over and over. All things organic and alive follow such a pattern. Thus it follows that the majority of human groups who are currently on this planet are here for one reason: to participate in the cycle of destruction. Led by the powers of the hidden hand, they are sure doing a perfectly adequate job. No one could argue with that. Another question you may ask: are these creative and destructive cycles complete? In other words, are they really destroying everything 100%? During a devolutionary cycle, is all life, all creation destroyed? That's impossible. My own intuitive answer is of course not. It does not need to be the case. However, it is easy to observe that a great amount of effort has been put forth during the past 2,500 years or so towards destruction. The forces of creation are always at work as well, of course, simultaneously keeping the equilibrium alive. Nature is always striving for balance as much as possible. However, we must observe when a tipping point is reached, the opposite forces begin to grow in influence, and so the cycles follow endlessly in a perfect pattern. And as the yin and yang symbol well illustrates the cycles of creation and destruction, there's always a small remaining seed amount contained within the opposite cycle. But again, back to my original question, is humanity really going out by the way of the Maya of the classical period? In light of the previous argument, we could answer this question with a yes. It's obvious now that during a devolutionary cycle, there's very little need for true creative genius. If you are here to be truly creative, to invent great things, to build, to advance human culture, and leave a lasting mark on this third dimensional material realm, you may end up quite disappointed. Because during the Age of Iron, whatever creation has been accomplished is not complete. And the Maya knew this. If Kalaman is correct and creation is done with the end of the cycle of the fifth world, then what? What follows next? Unfortunately, we do not have access to the Maya wisdom about what the sixth world entails. It's been destroyed. We can only speculate. Are we done yet? Is the Iron Age winding down, or will it be during the sixth world, during the next 5,000 or so years of the processional cycle, when destruction will reach maximum levels? If the Iron Age is still in full force, it follows that the human groups whose life purpose is to be creative and constructive, advancing and expanding our human culture, or building lasting values, or invent useful and beautiful things, helping Mother Earth with her creative transformation, these creations will all but disappear at the end of this cycle. Yes, it sounds kind of depressing, but due to the theme of Kali Yuga, destruction must prevail, even if constructive, creative people do not mean to serve such an agenda. What is created will be sacrificed at the altar of destruction, one way or another, before this cycle ends. In fact, we must observe how in our current age, the devolutionary forces on the yin-yang balance wheel are in full force, wiping out massive numbers of the creative groups of humans. The seed groups, such as the indigenous cultures, including the classical Maya, entire generations of the Native American tribes, the Aborigines in Australia, most African seed groups, or the Scythian nations of the great Asian continent, and the list goes on and on even today. In order to carry out their purpose or job of destruction during the current Kali Yuga cycle, the destructive human groups entered this realm around the beginning of the fifth world, or exactly around 3000 BC, and it seems their work is not yet done. You may say that I'm wrong. This just can't happen. Destruction cannot go on unchecked. However, on close examination of untainted history of the past 5,000 years can prove my point. It's time for us to wake up to the reality of our world. All this is not happening because of the judging wrath of an angry god or visiting reptilians or various ET groups or our governments or other visitors. To blame any external force is infantile at best. No, humanity is at work here. Always has been, always will be as a collective. Doing good or bad, creative or destructive, we are the ones. We were and are always here to carry out this purpose. Some groups are here to represent the dark forces of our human nature, to be sure. And at this time of the Kali Yuga cycle, they are in the majority of the yin-yang balance. Once the Age of Iron reaches its end point and starts blending into the Bronze Age, hopefully soon, we will again find that the creative genius of humanity shall gain higher ground. Let's sum it up. As it has been widely accepted now and scientifically proven that there is no such thing as death, and hopefully we can all agree on that, in the infinite universe all is alive, at the very least in dormant seed form. Therefore the cycles of creation and destruction are in harmony with the natural lore, L-O-R-E, or natural law. So construction follows destruction, and so it goes on and on ad infinitum. If the creative human groups do not get their chance to really shine this time around, they will get to return when the time is right during one of the great ages, either the Silver Age or the very long-lasting Golden Age. And if you accept the premise that life is eternal and that there is no such thing as time, we can conclude that all is well and always will be well in the eternal cycles of the wonderful yin and yang.
I here, this is my I, and you here with your I. I'm trying to get to the middle of you, you're trying to get to the middle of me. And neither one of us exists without the other. This is yang, the white, and yin, the dark. Yang, the word yang originally means, or is associated with, the south side of a mountain, which is sunny. Yin, the north side, which is dark. Yang is the north bank of a river, which gets the sun. Yin is the south bank of a river, which is in the shade. Now, you see, you don't get a mountain with only one side. The mountain, if it's a mountain at all, goes up and down. It's like the wave. You don't get a wave which has a crest with no trough, or a trough with no crest. You can't have half a wave. So, yang and yin are quite different from each other, but just because they are different, they're identical. This is the important idea of the identical difference. So, yang and yin. There is no yang without yin, no yin without yang. Really, the fundamental, ultimate mystery, the only thing you need to know to understand the deepest metaphysical secrets, is this. that for every outside there is an inside, and for every inside there is an outside. And although they are different, they go together. There is, in other words, a secret conspiracy between all insides and all outsides, and the conspiracy is this: to look as different as possible, and yet underneath to be identical. Because you don't find exactly what you do, he finds out that your behavior is not something that can be separated from the behavior of the world around you. He realizes then that you are something that the whole world is doing. Just as when the sea has waves on it, well, all right, the sea, the ocean is waving. And so each one of us is a waving of the whole cosmos, the entire works, all there is. And with each one of us, it's waving and saying, yoo-hoo, here I am. Only it does it differently each time, because variety is the spice of life.
That suchness comes and goes like everything else, because this whole world is an on and off system. As the Chinese say, it's the yang and the yin. And therefore it consists of now you see it, now you don't, here you are, here you aren't, here you aren't. Because that's the very nature of energy, to be like waves, and waves have crests and troughs. Only we, being under a certain kind of sleepiness or illusion, imagine that the trough is going to overcome the wave or the crest. The yin, the dark principle, is going to overcome the yang or the light principle, and that off is finally going to triumph over on. And we, shall I say, bug ourselves by indulging in that illusion. Gee, supposing darkness did win out, wouldn't that be terrible? And so we're constantly trembling and thinking that it may, because after all, isn't it odd that anything exists? It's most peculiar. It requires effort, it requires energy, and it would be so much easier for there to have been nothing at all. Therefore we think, well, since the is side of things is so much effort, you always give up after a while and you sink back into death. But death is just the other face of energy, and it's the rest, the not being anything around, that produces something around, just in the same way that you can't have solid without space, or space without solid. When you wake up to this and realize that the more it changes, the more it's the same thing, as the French say, that you are really a playing of this one energy, and there is nothing else but that it is you, but that for you to be always you would be an insufferable bore. And therefore it is arranged that you stop being you after a while and then come back as someone else altogether. And so when you find that out, you become full of energy and delight. As Blake said, energy is eternal delight. And you suddenly see through the whole sham of things. You realize you're that. We won't put a name on it. You're that. And you can't be anything else.